Hello and welcome to a Star Citizen video updating the changes in scope to Star Citizen over the last few years. If the Star Citizen Persistent Universe MMO released today, what features would it have based on its current plans? That's basically what we're doing. It's an important thing to mention as well that with Star Citizen nothing is written in stone. These mechanics will get balanced, reiterated upon and evolved based on community feedback. It's the nature of their open development for that project. Star Citizen is an MMO FPS space sim created in a modified version of Amazon's Lumberyard Engine. You play a single character in an extremely detailed, seamless sandbox universe simulator where you can travel between systems and go from space to planet, all the way down to the planet's surface to go into like a cave or building or something. The plan is to have all players in the same instance or server together with multiple servers handling areas based on the amount of players there. Character creation. You're going to be able to create a character with some extremely good looking results. In fact, probably some of the best character creation that's ever existed when it comes down to fidelity and the detail of the head scans and the faces you'll be able to make. So head scans of many actors have allowed them to create a system where you can effectively Frankenstein various bits together or blend them to make a realistic looking character and an extremely high level of detail. At launch, you'll be able to create male and female human characters. Eventually, after release, they do plan on allowing you to have alien characters from the Xi'an, the Tavaran and Banu at the very least. All of these races will have empires and presence in the game as well, and some will have their own architecture, their own ships, and lots of missions and all that sort of stuff attached to those particular races and areas of space. Other races in-game are the Vandal and the Kurthak, as well as some possible undiscovered ones, and we'll have various fauna as well. Death of a spaceman. So characters can die in Star Citizen. There is a light permadeath system. So you'll have a certain amount of lives, though this number might not be defined. When you get killed in a ship or explosion, or bleed out, or get shot, or one of the 100,000 million other ways to die, you'll most likely respawn at the nearest medical facility. The idea being it's the future, and even several hours after your death, you can be saved. You might have a scar or a bionic replacement. However, die a lot, and eventually your character will die. There may be ways of refreshing the amount of lives you have, or having some particular insurance that means that you're less likely to die. However, if you do die properly, you'll have to create another character. However, you will receive the previous character's assets. There might be some form of death tax or whatever, but by and large, you've lost your main character, but you create another one, and the loss isn't massive, but it is annoying. They want mortality to be a major part of Star Citizen, and there to be risk, reward, and loss. There will be some medical gameplay too. Players and NPCs might be able to go down and they're bleeding out. Medics and gadgets would come over to stabilise and save them. Medical facilities providing better results and healing, as well as possible respawn locations. Physics and the intelligent flight computer system. So combat and ship flight are in-game physics-driven. The flight computer in ships tells the thrusters and engines what they need to do based on requested movement. Bullets and projectiles are generated from the barrels of the actual weapon. Hit locations on ships are important. Power feeds to shields, weapons, engines and systems. Damaging part of that will have knock-on effects to the ship and the way it works. Coolers take away heat. Take out a thruster and a ship will have to try and compensate using the other thrusters and the intelligent flight computer system, which crunches all those numbers together and goes, this is where I'm going. Damage can cause ships to explode or parts of them to decompress into space. So, star systems. So Star Citizen is going to have a procedurally assisted approach when it comes to its solar systems, planets, and play area, meaning artists are involved in every process of the game content over this massive area, but a large portion of the work is effectively automated by the procedural nature of the tools they've created. Solar systems are roughly 1/10 of the size. There's 100 to 120 systems currently planned. You may have heard that there was supposed to be a reduction to 5 to 10 solar systems, but this was incorrect. They have no intention of reducing the scope of Star Citizen's play area. These solar systems are simulated too. Planets rotate and orbit their stars. Eclipses, day-night cycles, they are all natural and occur in game. The star map in-game will allow you to mark a destination to travel from or to with your ships in Quantum Drive, but you will also be able to place nav beacons in the verse as well, and that will allow you to travel to those locations whenever you want, although they do require maintenance and can be hacked and destroyed. You can even roll down all the way from space all the way planet side for a mini-map of the location you're currently in. Travel in space will be varied and visually appealing. Various things might happen to you as well when you're just travelling across the stars. You may receive a distress signal, get attacked by pirates, get quantum interdicted, which is where you get pulled out of Quantum Drive, or a component might burn out and require repair. The repair system for the game allows you to switch out components for systems and hand welding certain areas as well. This is going to be extremely important as a part of multi-crewing ships, but also larger scale repairing can be done to hulls from inside hangars, space stations, and the Crucible repair ship. Ships and multi-crew. There are a huge range of ships in Star Citizen, from single-seater fighters to massive sprawling capital ships. These ships can be crewed by players or, I suppose, NPCs. NPC crews will be hireable to fly escort or to help you run that capital ship. More specialised individual NPCs will be available for you to discover around the verse, like Pokemon too. That's just random places and bars and that sort of stuff. There will be caps on the amount that you can hire and who you can hire and how many ships you can have out simultaneously though there are no hard rules for that yet. Multi-crewing can vary from extremely simple as gun turret operators to much more complex running multiple consoles on a capital ship. Players will be able to be security guards, marines, engineers, repair teams, pilots, gunners, shield, power, scanner operators. Ships like the Super Hornet are a two-man fighter, and the second pilot there could have shared access to the console or just the turret gun or both, whereas a console operator on the Bridge of an Idris might be in charge of many more systems. This is also going to lead to massive capital ship combat and fleet battles. These battles can occur both in space but also inside ships with boarding, on planets, on sky, ground, combined arms all around with that, with ships coming down from orbit to bombard targets if necessary. The first-person elements of the game are extremely important as well for multi-crew, but also for exploration, interaction, and boarding ships. You're going to be able to lock ships and have various control of permissions assigned to crewmen. You can have doors unlocked with codes or automatically based on the permissions that you've given to those particular crewmen. Also, they can work out what they can access terminal-wise, do they have access to the shield systems, that sort of stuff. Ships will also be able to be breached through hacking, destruction, or welding of doors. Players will be able to EVA out of their ship. They'll be able to open that airlock and jump out of their ship, or go out through a cargo bay or another exit with their EVA gear, basically like a jump pack in space. They can also land into your cargo bay or hangar as well with a smaller ship. First-person shooter combat is going to be quite in-depth as well, with the stamina based on what you're carrying and armour you're wearing. Oxygen stored in your suit will be consumed based on your heart rate. Your suit can get punctured. Your run and speeds can be affected by lots of different factors, where you are, what gravity you're in, that sort of stuff. Weapons can be modified with scopes and mods. There will be gadgets and utility items for very specific purposes. It's a first-person universe. It just happens to have lots of beautiful spaceships in it. There's also going to be Titan suits of armour, which are somewhere between the size of a man and a mech in-game at some point as well. Weapons and system choices matter for your ships. There will be a range of power plants, weapons and equipment for ships geared towards various tasks. Stealth, for example. Signatures in-game will be detectable based on the amount of IR, infrared or heat, EM, electromagnetic, or the amount of power you're generating, I suppose, amount of electricity that's going through your ship. Also, you can be seen via your CS, your cross-section, and via those three things, I, R, E, M, and CS, is how missiles are going to track and lock onto you. Scanning will also be an important mechanic for detecting those signatures on planets and in space. Your ship loadout is really going to matter with the management of those systems. You can turn down power to certain systems, turn off others. This is all going to have consequences based on what you're doing though. So if you want to go into stealth mode, you can turn off all your systems if you wanted to, but you might take a while to spin them back up and someone could still spot you. Items will be able to be tweaked and overclocked in game too. Lasers, mass drivers, chain guns, plasma shotguns. There are huge amounts of weapons and sizes as well. So fighters will have smaller size 1 weapons, but it will range all the way up to massive capital ship weapons and anti-capital ship torpedoes. Dynamic economy. So the economy in Star Citizen is not player-led. It is player-involved, however. The player base is representative of a fraction of the population of planets. These planets will respond to what is happening economically, so they will visually change what is happening on a planet. NPCs might be happier and be wearing better clothes, areas might look cleaner or dirtier based on piracy. Items and ships will vary based on location, supply and demand when players want to buy them, or when NPCs need them. Missions will be automatically created if a commodity, for example, is needed. A planet might require iron or steel to create ships. These missions will be taken by players and NPCs. If pirates raided a large portion of those missions where they're trying to bring in that cargo, or there was some form of blockade and the materials did not get to their destination, this would stall the production of those ships or weapons or items or whatever is being made. There are stocks of these items in shops, and stock can be literally throttled or stopped or prevented. This is going to affect the insurance systems as well. Ships will be insured by players. They have to pay for insurance with in-game currency, and that will mean that if they lose their ship based on their insurance level, will mean if they get a new ship or if they get money, or if their various items on their ship are also insured. Now, ships will get replaced in the verse, but ships will also need to be produced to replace those. So losing a large ship might have quite a long waiting time and also generate a load of missions across the verse to bring in components and parts to build that Idris or something that you've just lost. Also, there's going to be missions that will be created to kill pirates if lots of things are being blockaded or prevented by certain things. Basically, the economy and mission system will identify what needs to be created and done in verse. It will go, we need to create missions for players to bring this here. We need missions for players to go kill these pirates. We need bounty hunting missions to be done over here because there's lots of criminal activity going on. So missions over time as well may collect more and more UEC, encouraging players to go and do them. So a mission left unchecked for like a few days or whatever might be worth a lot more UEC, saying please kill these pirates because they are disrupting this part of the verse. So some other industry-based mechanics. There are a lot of in-depth mechanics on trade and cargo, and you're going to have ships that will have to wait to be loaded and unloaded as well. So there's a time for that. Your cargo routes will matter because you have to consider not just the time that you've got to go to a planet and back and do your cargo or trade route, but also those times for loading and unloading your ship. Mining will also be available in space in the form of materials on asteroids, but also gas clouds for fuel, and also planet side as well. You're going to be able to detect materials that you want to be able to extract safely, and then go for just those materials, or nom up for the whole asteroid if you're in a larger mining ship. Salvage will allow you to munch up old ships and scrap as well. There are various other missions and roles as well. There are going to be a vast range of missions generated by that on-demand system of the verse, but there's also going to be various ones that will pop up, including escorts, cargo runs, info running, assassination, bounty hunting, exploration, science, discovery, and these missions will all have a modular element to them. So even if you have a very similar mission, even if you go for basically an exactly similarly named mission, they're all going to have different outcomes, destinations, enemies, different ways you can complete them. Also, missions taken can be in conflict with another player's objective, creating conflict or at least causing players in some situations to have to actually meet. There will be PvP and piracy, but many systems will have security, police or military forces that will brand you an outlaw if you try and attack another player and are detected. Reputation and criminality will be tracked in game, but different systems and areas will have different laws. There will also be different various forms of different defense and that sort of stuff. Some areas, some jump gates to particular systems might be heavily blockaded with military and police and stuff, so getting into those after you're a criminal may be near impossible. There will be certain areas or ways to temporarily take down detection in some situations so if you wanted to do like a player assassination or NPC assassination, that you could do that, though it would be quite hard. And players that really want to stick just the PvE side of the game should stick to the more patrolled systems, otherwise you may encounter a player and they may be hostile. A lot of other non-specific mission-based roles exist too. Science and exploration will allow you to collect and explore different various things on planets and the edges of the system that might not have been seen yet. Collecting data on flora, fauna, anomalies and much more. Service beacons will allow players to quickly request help distress beacon or a refueling request if they're out of fuel. There will also be player-created missions and contracts too. So there's also going to be loads of other jobs. Starfarers will be able to gather and sell fuel from the verse. Genesis Starliners will be able to transport NPCs as their own, like your own mini airway company. And because the players can create contracts, there are limitless possibilities to what roles can effectively be created. There will be racing on ground and in space. There's going to be information broadcasting, farming, manufacture of drugs, lots of variants to these mechanics and more that we're about to mention as well. So planetary landings, moons, planets and planetoids are available to land on and explore. They are massive, around a quarter to a sixth of the scale of a real planet or a moon. Although partly procedurally generated, every planet and moon has touched by an artist. On planets we will see procedural cities too in a similar style, allowing for massive city planets to exist in-game and look pretty good. Transitions to planets will be seamless as well. Every planet will have its unique gravity, atmosphere, weather systems, biomes, and may have flora and fauna too. Crashing planetside will happen. Players may have to set a distress beacon, travel to a nearby settlement, or complete some tasks before they can get rescued. On some more developed planets, where they are just city planets, you might have to fly within a flight corridor to go and land on a landing zone. Otherwise, if you go out of that corridor, you may get fined, or your systems may get taken control of, and they will force you to land in a particular area. Modular stations and outposts. So there are going to be a lot of areas of play in Star Citizen with planets and moons, and various modular outposts, buildings, camps, derelicts, trade posts, and more will fill that area. Space will have modular satellites and space stations to land on and trade with or attack. Defences might need to be dealt with, whether it's a station or a ground installation, before a full attack or takeover can happen though. And there will be base building. A major planned mechanic is now base building. Players will be able to construct bases on a planet or moon side. These structures will have function from mining, storage, hangars, manufacture, headquarters for guilds, science and research, forward operating bases. These bases will still need to be defended and will act similarly to the way spaceships do. They'll need power for some of their systems. They'll need, they'll be able to communicate with each other. You'll be able to power up turrets and get ammo into those turrets and that sort of stuff. Items around the universe, as well as cockpit controls, will be fully interactable with by players. So you'll be able to flick on certain switches, you'll be able to pick up cups and drink from them, you'll be able to throw things at people, you'll be able to take the batteries out of a little mini watch or radar and see it operating. There will be some quite in-depth usables in-game. The rooms and door system will keep track of pressure and oxygen and environmental composition of all connected areas in-game. Airlocks and bulkheads will keep those areas separate, but damage to a ship could cause an explosive decompression and loss of oxygen as a big hole is teared in the hull. Opening airlocks will eventually normalise the differences in pressure and composition between areas. This means that wearing a helmet will be very important, because some areas will be breathable and others won't, and you'll start to suffocate if you don't have enough oxygen, but other environmental effects may affect you, might affect your stamina, might affect the way you move. There's going to be gravity and all that sort of jazz as well. So, some more FAQ-esque questions about Star Citizen. There are no levels or experience in Star Citizen. It's all down to player experience and equipment for what you can do. Everything is obtainable in-game. There's no pay-to-win element. There will be ship progression, so that as you get towards like the larger, more expensive ships or the more military type vessels, they will be harder to purchase, they will be more expensive. There will be a certain appropriate amount of gameplay there before you move on between ships, and that will be balanced during the alpha and beta processes. With capital ships though, they are meant to be bought as part of a group or organisation, although players will still be requesting crew for those multi-crew ships, those large ships. They'll be saying, we need gunners, we need console operators, we need pilots, whatever. So you'll still be able to fly those ships, even if you don't have them. You can get into an organisation, and organisations are a big part of Star Citizen, enabling you to do a lot more in forms of missions or organisation and sharing ships and lots of different stuff. Characters and NPCs. So NPCs will have their own 24-hour schedules. This is the same for animals on planets as well. They will react to other players situationally, but also based on the interactions they've had with players in the past. Reputation will affect this, where the NPCs are, what they're wearing, and everything will all be defined based on the system they're in, the particular landing zone they're at. NPCs will be able to interact with objects and items and do complex tasks as well. NPCs that aren't killed killed as part of a mission, for example, as well, could become nemesises. So you might have the mission to kill a pirate captain, and if that's left unchecked, or people fail that mission repeatedly, then that pirate captain might become a pirate admiral and set up a base somewhere and become much more pronounced in verse. The Mobiglass is going to act as a multi-function diegetic UI. Basically, it's a UI that exists in the game world, and other people will be able to see you using your UI, although they'll probably have quite a hard time reading it, including quest logs, apps, customization for yourself and ships. All of that's on that Mobiglass. Shopping and trade will be handled sometimes through the Mobiglass. The star map and lots of other different applications will also be on there as well. Star Citizen will make use of hologram and render-to-texture tech to allow quite intelligent looking comms calls where players might be able to speak to each other and actually see the performances of them speaking, and this is going to be projected from cameras as well, so we might see live streamed events in the verse. There is a Mako news van that could technically make use of that gameplay as well, and there will be hand-to-hand weapons and takedowns in the verse. There's going to be e-war, tracking, hacking, scanning mechanics, as well as equipment that is kind of suited for those functions, but also to protect from those functions, protect from hacking, protect from e-war. Star Citizen is planning on using Vulkan and should be available for all versions of Windows 7 and beyond. The game will have VR support eventually for all major headsets. Squadron 42 unlocks will carry over to Star Citizen. This could be citizenship, contacts, reputation, and could be extra missions or something. There is no hard release date for Star Citizen. The project releases alpha patches every so often, and the feedback from them influences the game development. I'm expecting the game to go into beta kind of mid-2019. If you want to be part of that development process, then get involved with Star Citizen. But do it if you're after a game that's fully fleshed out, or you don't want to have to get involved with that process, then it's probably best to wait until that game is more complete. Star Citizen has no subscription fees. Once you have a game package, you have access to the game. Star Citizen will allow for modding at some point after its release as well, and this should also include some forms of private servers or a way of doing that. The project is in open development, meaning a large amount of what CIG and Foundry 42 are up to are shared with the public in the form of newsletters, weekly shows, alpha releases, forum posts, and the game is very malleable too, and that's good to keep in mind. Ships, mechanics, balance, they're all in flux. With the help of the community, these features evolve. CIG does not share everything, but they do share a lot, and they have a schedule report that is updated each week with the details of what they're working on the next patch. This will eventually also include a Squadron 42 schedule report, and ask questions, get feedback, that sort of stuff. You can do that through me or Spectrum or whatever. I will happily answer any questions I can. Every month we give away a ship. For August it's a Nox Q. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen videos during that particular month. Any questions about Alpha 3.0 or about Star Citizen's development in general, or about the MMO when it goes live? Have I missed out any mechanics? Because I'm sure I have, because there was quite a lot to go through. A special thanks to my Patreons who allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, you can find the link to Patreon below, as well as everything else we've talked about. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me, and I will see you in the verse.